People who near their retirement age or are already retired increasingly unretire, meaning they continue to be active in some shape or form. Now, for some people, this means that they stay with the company they are already with, but in different capacity. For others, it means that they launch their own small business or start contracting or freelancing. Something that isn't spoken about much is the fact that the idea of retiring is a daunting one for many people. All of a sudden, they don't have a place to go anymore for 5 or 4 days a week, something to contribute to society, and no more interactions with colleagues from different ages and walks of life. They've got this huge gap to fill, and unless they become full-time babysitters for the grandkids or have a hobby that they can spend all of their time on, this can be a rather unsettling prospect. Should we perhaps rethink retirement altogether? Wouldn't unretirement solve a lot of society's issues? Think of loneliness among other people, mental health issues and health issues that come from being less active, and, on a more positive note, all the knowledge and experience of retirees that could be put to good use in the workplace. Our statement, therefore, is the great unretirement. It's time to let go of retirement altogether. Andreas, I'll start with you. Do you vote yes or do you vote no?
I vote no.
Teske, do you vote yes or do you vote no?
I vote no.
Andreas, let's start with you this time.
Yeah, to your very provocative statement, I must say, again, we need to differentiate between the type of workers, because if it's someone who spent his entire career in an office, it might be different compared to someone who's been manually working and you have some other physical impairments. Sorry, there my English is a little bit lagging my capability to express myself. But if I only concentrate now in the following on, office workers, so people who are mentally still able to work, I say yes, of course, we should be open to consider how we can create a win-win situation, that these people can still be engaged and associated with our firms. On the other hand, I see, since there's a constant trend, just recently in France, they increased the retirement age, and this is going to increase anyway. I would not want to see that we would completely lift this formal. Is it a barrier? I don't know, but it's a threshold. Yeah, you are thrown into the employment market after your education, and then you're spit out. To be a little bit extreme with my wording here, and this is actually what can create these issues that you raised earlier, Nelly. But on the other hand, I believe it's also important that there is a clear date, and we should then accompany employees that they can plan their lives around it. And we maybe have not done enough in the past as firms to, not only extract the labor, the intellectual capital, and then when day X came, it was bye-bye and all is over. Maybe it's really worth exploring more in the future. How can we accompany this transition? Because when on the early stages, so when people are joining the employment market, there's a lot that not only our firm but many other firms, a lot of effort that's being carried out, how we can get access to these students, or even when they are still at school, how can then help in that transition to come on board on our firm. So I believe it's really just to complete the picture throughout the whole employment life cycle.
Teske, an initial reaction, please, to the statement.
Yeah, well, my thoughts were quite similar towards Andreas. So I also wanted to state that when someone comes from school, we as society, but also as employer, we really help them in the transformation they are in. And I think suddenly when people are employed, we think, okay, they are adults. They know what to do. They know how we can move towards different stages of life. But I think that never stops. So I agree with Andreas that if we help them when they graduate in becoming a real office worker, in being in the same industry as Andreas. So why aren't we doing that when people are retiring, or when people get kids? That's also a life-changing event. So what's going on then, and what do they need to keep in balance. So I think when I hear this statement, I thought, oh, it's not only about retirement, it's about life-changing events. And how can we support our employees in going towards those transitions? And I also totally agree. I think it's good that there is a threshold in age when you formally retire, but I don't think it's mandatory. So please have the conversation with each other. What do you need from each other? For example, we have a yearly barbecue in the Netherlands, and we have 5 people who retired in the last couple of years. We invite them every year again, so that they keep aligned with who we are as a company. At the Christmas fair, we do the same. And I think with such small initiatives, you can already also keep that bonding going on, but they also have the time to enjoy retirement.
Can I just add one thought?
Of course.
I just feel tempted. Oh, thank you. Well negotiated. I only wanted to add this one thought. As we all know, demography is changing dramatically. So we, like many others as well, are expecting more and more people to retire. So there's really a mass effect. And I would say if we as a firm miss the opportunity to demonstrate to our active workforce how we treat them, and that we treat them maybe exceptionally better than our competitors, I would say this is then something which, I mean, if we are aware of this and we put in place measures, and some of them were those that Teske mentioned, I believe there's much more that can be done. It's really going to pay us a dividend in terms of employee satisfaction, recognition, mutual recognition, and retention of these employees, instead of maybe in the past where you were only just focusing on how do we get these guys on board, and once we've got everything, it's over. This is definitely a story of the past, and that's why we also have to adapt in that respect for the future, how we address dealing with these life-changing events.
My thoughts now are also, this is really about vitality at work. And it's about vitality when you start, it's vitality when you stop with working, but it's also about being financially fit. So I think it's also already good that also the younger workers already learn about, okay, what's going to happen when I retire? What does that mean financially, but not, and mentally? And so I think all those components needs to come together in stimulating the right choices for each individual employee.
Absolutely. Yes, let's start by saying that, well, I absolutely love what both of you have been saying. I actually got goosebumps a couple of times. So really good points and beautiful. And let's also start by making it clear that, of course, this statement, that's definitely mostly regarding knowledge workers, in the sense that people who have had a very physical job for 20, 30, 40 years, of course, their bodies at some point, they just cannot continue anymore. And yes, they should absolutely retire, which does not mean, by the way, that they should not be continuing to be active in some kind of shape or form. But yeah, let's say that first. But of course, the statement had to be a little bit provocative, right? And the second thing that I would like to say, that was, I think, a strong point here, is that yes, perhaps organizations do have a responsibility to guide their people during times of big transitions, whether that is, as you mentioned, the arrival of the first or second or third child, or whether it is perhaps indeed people retiring. So I think that was a good point as well that you were making. Now, I'd like to go back to the statement, however, one moment. And that is also to your point, Teske, about vitality, because should we not be putting more attention to the fact that we should try to create a situation in which people are working, but it doesn't feel like work, and therefore they are actually living a life from which they do not need to retire or not even want to retire. Again, coming back a little bit to my devil's advocate role here, but what do we think about that? And Teske, I will start with you.
I can totally imagine that. My husband is his work is not work. It's feeling like a hobby. So he's really passionate about it. So he also says to me, I don't want to retire. I like this. And of course, we're still young, but at the moment, that's how he looks at the current situation. But I think also as an employer, you have some responsibility to make sure that people also have time to do other things than work, even if it feels like a hobby or that you are enjoying it. I think it's good to broaden your horizon, and that's not only focusing on your job and doing. It's also about traveling, meeting other people. I think the lessons you learn in all those other activities will bring you so much. So I think that we have a responsibility in that perspective as well.
Nice. Andreas?
Yeah, I try to keep myself brief here. I mean, first you learn, then you're asked to apply what you learn. What happens is that you gain experience, and when you've collected enough experience, something starts to emerge, which we might call wisdom. And I only know that people who are at this stage, they are not in their 20s, they're rather maybe in their 50s, 60s, or even older. I take out the people who never acquire wisdom, okay? But what these people, when I spoke to them, they share in common, they enjoy sharing this wisdom with other people. And what a waste, yeah? Or I flip around, what a fantastic opportunity that these people could serve as mentors. And I have not come across anyone who said, okay, this is the bill, I need X, Y. We had the topic before, yeah, there's also about financial planning, and this needs to work well. But it's really just to, to give something back, either to the society or to the firm, which is also part of the society. We are not something isolated or whatever. We're part of the society. That's at least how I approach my job here. So for me, it's absolutely logical that we should provide the possibility to individuals who want it. Not everyone wants it, but who want it, to give this back, because it's a fantastic opportunity that their wisdom is not lost, and other people in their younger ages, they can benefit from this.
Teske, did you want to add something?
Well, I totally agree on this, what Andreas is mentioning, but I think as an employer, you still need to have that conversation, because if it's a stubborn person who just want to continue in delivering work, I like the idea that you are speaking about being a mentor, and that means also, from my perspective, that you are not always available. So I think that balance needs to be right, especially when you are also at a certain age, because also your body is going to tell you it's enough for today, or just take an extra nap like that. So it's about balancing, I think.
Absolutely. Now, thank you both again for another beautiful debate.